Well, hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Another Fine Mess. I'm Roger Gray along with Michael Vance. How are you, sir?
I am doing great.
Well, good. Okay. How's your raccoon? How's your raccoon problem, by the way?
I'm going to knock on wood here. He broke a bunch of stuff, and I haven't replaced it, so he doesn't.
Okay.
We have now have double baffles on one of the feeder stands for bird feed, and I don't know. We'll see.
You can't stop an ambitious raccoon. You just can't.
Well, I'll tell you what, the U.S. Army can, because those ammo cans I got to store the seeds in. Yeah, take that, raccoon.
Try opening that. Yeah. Okay.
I can't.
Well,
I can't even open that, Roger. It's
hello. You. My favorite comparison is you have when people look puzzled, you look like a monkey faced with a locked suitcase. You know what? How do I do? What do I do? Anyway, let's start with what happened this week. Oh gosh, the Fauci hearings. It wasn't much of a hearing. Let me get your thoughts on that, just to kick it off.
well,
Dr. Anthony Fauci, we're talking about.
yeah, it was nothing but the Republicans trying to get a gotcha, trying to get him to somehow say something that they could then contort into perjury charges, like they did with Comey, James Comey, and who is back in the news, by the way. There are more revelations
Yeah.
about Comey if we want to get to that too. So Fauci showed up with an attorney, and his attorney had said, look, here's what they're going to do. They're trying to play gotcha. So just take the fifth, which is
Yeah.
something I might add that the president has done hundreds, if not thousands of times before in various trials, including while he's in office. He has taken the fifth over and over and over. And you
Which
get
somebody
to
probably, which somebody probably tried to remind Senator Hawley when he was saying, "Well, that sure is an
Yeah.
indication of innocence." Yeah.
And that's where I was going to start with, is that smug coward Josh Hawley, the guy who was sprinting out of the Capitol on January 6th,
Yeah.
sitting there going, well, Doc, nothing says innocence like taking the fifth. And he then
Yeah,
starts
like your
asking,
boss. Yeah.
yeah, he starts asking questions about what color is your tie? What day of the week is it? The point is, no, we're not going to give you anything to work with on this whole gotcha idea that I've been dragged up here for. And Rand Paul kicks his lawyer out of the room, which I'm sure is all kinds of unconstitutional, makes his lawyer leave. The whole thing was just a embarrassing sideshow for no
Does
reason. I
anybody
mean,
does anybody remember the Oliver North hearings years ago during Iran Contra? His lawyer sat there next to him, and matter of fact, I went to a radio conference, kind of a Houston big celebration. All the radio stations were there, and they had set up this gives you the date on it. They set up a table with a cardboard cutout of Oliver North sitting at a table, and I have a picture of my wife whispering into his ear, you know, like his lawyer did all through his hearings. It's very common.
it goes
So,
back, I mean, to Kefauver and McCarthy, and I
oh
mean,
yeah, oh
you
yeah,
know, go
oh yeah.
back as far as there are hearings. There are lawyers in there telling you don't answer this. So there's no shame in that. There is no admission of guilt in that, especially when you have been brought there so they can entrap you in the first damn place.
Yeah.
The one that really was over the top is Tommy Tuberville, who is,
Yeah.
I mean, there are slugs, literal garden slugs, looking at that guy going, boy, he's dumb as shit, isn't he? The guy afterwards said, well, Fauci is responsible for 9 million deaths. No, he's not. You're not grasping this, Tommy. What Rand Paul, who Fauci said has, quote, an unhinged obsession with me, end quote. What Rand Paul was going on about were these diaries that he had subpoenaed that are more than likely Fauci trying to think about a book down the line when he was writing this stuff. But it had his own musings about the origin of COVID and whether or not it came from a lab or whether or not it happened naturally. And so that's what Paul was fixated about,
Oh, yeah.
and what poor little, idiot Tommy doesn't understand, that's what the questions were about. Nobody is saying he caused the virus, Tommy. I mean, it just, these
Well,
people, they're out of their damn minds.
funding to the Wuhan lab. There were grants to the lab in Wuhan. It apparently has a very good reputation. I looked up just before we started. I wanted to double check what the consensus scientific opinion is now about the origins, and it is still natural. That's what the overwhelming bulk of scientists believe. Now, they could be wrong, I suppose. Most of
Whether
the
they're
lab
wrong or
leak.
not, whether they're wrong or not, Fauci didn't cause this. So
Yeah.
that's the point.
Well, and the only points I will give Trump in this whole thing, and this goes back to the first term, obviously, is that he allowed the funding to speed up research on a vaccine. The vaccine saved lives, and that has all gotten turned around, probably largely due to the internet and politics. But the vaccine saved lives. Did it prevent you from getting it? No, but you're going to get a milder case. You're going to get a case that doesn't require you to go to the hospital and maybe be intubated.
Two things.
It has turned logic on its head.
Yep, two things here. That was called Operation Warp Speed when
Right.
he cleared
Right.
all the things out. And this is Trump's quote, which, I mean, you expect hyperbole, but he said, quote, "This is the greatest thing done by a president," end quote.
Well,
So,
okay.
That's what he was saying at the time about what a wonderful effort it was, and it was. You have health professionals one after another sitting there going, the people that I saw dying in the hospital before me, and there were hundreds of them, were the ones that were not vaccinated. Rand Paul himself, who is, by the way, not a medical doctor and certified by some guys under a bridge, Rand Paul himself said, okay, yes. He keeps arguing for natural herd immunity
Right.
instead of vaccines. Yet he admits that COVID is not like smallpox, that you can get it more than once, which kind of defeats his whole stupid ass argument to begin.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like measles, for example. We've talked about this before. When I was growing up, there was no vaccine. I got a bad case of measles, kept me out of school for at least a week. Had to be very, very careful. But once you've had measles, you're not going to get it again. That's the only the only good thing if you survive your case. And I was a little older. I was in second grade, I think. I wasn't an infant. So herd immunity works for that kind of thing, sure. But now that there's a vaccine, you don't have to wait for that. And kids don't have to die. People don't have to die. You can get the shot. There are reactions to every vaccine out there. You will find some people that react badly, from polio on to everything else.
Yep, flu used to be, for example, a live vaccine, and a lot of people
Right.
had reactions to that. It is not a live vaccine anymore, and the reactions have gone down to minuscule amounts, as they have for just about everything. But again, Rand Paul is talking about herd immunity for something that even he admits you can get more than once. It's not smallpox. It's not measles. You can get it more than once. It's not yellow fever. On the vaccine and the anti-vax thing, I know you wanted to talk about Trump hurrying up RFK.
Yeah.
Talk about that for a little bit.
I will. Before we leave it, just a reminder on this 250th anniversary of the Declaration. George Washington ordered the vaccinations of his soldiers. I believe it even happened at Valley Forge.
It did.
Yeah. Frankly, when I first read that years ago, I didn't even know there were vaccinations back then.
Yeah,
But
smallpox was the first one, and it's Edward Jenner, 1798, if I'm remembering correctly off the
yeah,
top of my head, was when that really got rolled out. But it was around before that, and
yeah,
dates back into the Puritans in Massachusetts. Cotton Mather was a big vaccination involved
yeah.
dude. Anyway, go
And
ahead.
we talked before that I am old enough to have been pre polio. That the vaccine came along when I was a kid, and we all lined up. Parents were, thanking the good Lord for Jonas Salk. So anyway, speaking of vaccines, we have a 35-year high in measles out there. Measles outbreak. We have lost our claim to be measles free. That little title is now gone, and reporting is that Trump is one of those who still believes vaccines cause autism. RFK probably is too, but he's gotten enough blowback that he's quit saying that so much. But apparently, the president is hurrying him along. You're not getting people off vaccines quick enough because it's causing autism. So he wants RFK, least qualified person probably ever for that office, certainly ever. Why am I qualifying that? Is now going to ramp up efforts to get people to reconsider vaccines, which means we're going to see more of everything: more chicken pox, more mumps, more measles, more you name it. It's nuts, just nuts, and we're going backwards scientifically as a
30,
society.
34 states. This is as of yesterday. 34 states have legislation pending or under consideration that are anti vaccine bits of legislation. And some of them have as many as 20 different bills in the legislature at the same time. You would think that those are going to be the crazy ass red states. And there are some. Oklahoma is up there. West Virginia has the most, with like 24 bills that have been filed that are anti-vaccine.
Well, it's
Mississippi,
West Virginia. Yeah.
but also, those bills have been filed in blue states like Washington, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Minnesota as well. There is one in Iowa that is to establish the Immunization Injury Awareness Month and have things printed up by the state at state expense, taxpayer expense, to distribute. As you said, these people, we are going backwards, but these people they're killing people. This is killing people. And the cynical side of me wants to say, well, if those idiots want to get sick, more power to them, but
Yeah, I
it's their
know.
kids. It's not them, it's their kids. And you
Yeah.
cannot say that because these are children that don't have any political opinions, and
And
in
they
a
believe
lot
their
of cases,
parents.
yes, and they're going to die. They're going to die. And it's just, we cannot get rid of these people fast enough for any number of reasons, but they are, aside from the fact that they are ruining the country politically and taking away our constitutional rights, they are actively killing us.
Yes, and scientific illiteracy. You see it every time on Facebook. There's a post about Apollo 11 or something, and all the nutcases come out. Well, that was on a Hollywood soundstage and so forth. I don't know what it is about some people that they cannot believe in science. They just can't. I mean, these are people that think the Earth is 6,000 years old. You just can't. I saw a wonderful. I had the delightful opportunity to interview Carl Sagan 3 or 4 times over the years. And the last time was, I didn't know it, but he was dying. He still did he still did the interview. He had cancer, and I watched a wonderful speech Sagan gave to the National Press Club years ago, and it was all he was asked, should we teach biblical creation alongside evolution, and his contention was obviously no. Evolution is a fact; it exists. He did allow And he and I had a discussion about this. He did allow the Bible is it's a wonderful work of literature. It's a wonderful work of faith. It is a wonderful guide for living a good life. But he said it is not science. It is not. It is a simple telling of a very complicated set of facts. The fossil record doesn't lie. God didn't put it there to fake us out. It's just, and yet, people refuse to believe it. People believe in conspiracies and all of the junk we heard when Fauci was there. We were dealing with an unprecedented. The only precedent was back in 1918, but an unprecedented pandemic, and they were doing it as best they could. All of the scientific researchers trying to figure this thing out, trying to figure out how to fight it and how to prevent it. And you learn as you go along. That's science.
Well, and they did a remarkable job. But I want to talk about something else that some people in this administration don't want to believe, and that is history. Mm-hmm. Because he is now mandated through executive order, and we'll see how that shakes out in litigation, but that the Smithsonian have signs put up at the entrance saying some of what you're going to see is inaccurate. And, the idiocy, the ignorance, the willful ignorance of these people astounds me on a daily basis. This is, again, racism at its core, pure and simple, that they don't want to tell history that doesn't glorify white people. The end. That's the goal. That's all of it. We can give you a little bit of black history, but not too much. We can give you a little bit of Latino history, but not too much. Indigenous, well, they didn't do anything, so we don't need them in there. They want sanitized white history, and if they're not going to get it, they're going to put signs up on one of the greatest history museum on the planet, and tell people that it's not true. Revisionist history is there for people like to throw that around as some sort of bad thing. That just means that we have learned new information. We find new information all the time as new records become available, as new fossil records become available in the sciences that affects history as well. Revisionist is improving. Yes, there are some people that want to come out with new theories to sell books. Take them and read them, decide for yourself, look at the evidence, but they are sourced. There are reasons to believe these things. If you don't like it, do the reading, read the books. Don't just slap a sign up there and go, hey, this is not true. White people are good. This is not true.
Yeah. And one of the driving forces behind this is a guy named David Barton. And Mike, you write about history. David Barton claims to be an historian. He has no history background in terms of academic background in history. And I forget what his degree was in, but it was something completely unrelated. But his whole goal is basically infusing religion into American history as much as possible, right down to the point of the founding fathers and the founding documents and all of that. We know that's not true. Gorsuch, of all people, caught a lot of flack by saying, no, the country wasn't founded on any one religion. It just wasn't. And this is a Trump appointee to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
religious thing, there's a thing happening in Texas that they are trying to insert into the curriculum about this totally fictional, completely made up bullshit about a squad or a unit or a company of preachers that were fighting in the American Revolution, wearing their clerical robes. And it never
That
happened.
I had not heard.
It
Really?
is absurdity. It never happened. There is zero evidence that this ever happened. And they have succeeded, these right wing lunatics have succeeded in putting it into the curriculum in the state of Texas. And that's your Barton dude.
One of your Barton beliefs is also that we have overemphasized the negatives of slavery. I'm not sure how you can do that. There is nothing but negatives about slavery, except that you get a lot of work done. That's about it.
You make a lot of white people very rich. You make a lot of slave owners very rich, and that's why
Yeah,
slavery. That's why slavery existed
of course.
in the
Yeah,
numbers that it did after the cotton gin got widespread. All of a sudden, you could make a lot of money if you had a lot of property and a lot of slaves to farm on that property.
sure.
So it was about greed. It was about making money. But the people at the time, and I'm talking about in the 1840s and 50s, convinced themselves because they were making money. And there are incredible parallels with this narrative that you're talking about today. They convince themselves because they're making money that it is morally right. So you see the writings change from Jefferson's time period, when the founding fathers were questioning slavery and flat out saying the morality of this is bad, to people by the 1850s saying, no, we're doing good things for the Negro
Yeah.
because we're enslaving them and taking care of them.
Well,
So,
you see, yeah, you see that I would recommend to everybody Ron Chernow's book on Ulysses Grant. And I need to read Grant's memoirs. I have
you do.
read that they are remarkably just riveting. His memoirs of his career,
Yeah,
which say,
by far the best presidential memoir.
and but I had not. It hadn't occurred to me that a lot of Grant's presidency after the war was tainted to some extent by the rise of the whole lost cause business with the South. It's like revisionist German history. Let's be honest. After the Treaty of Versailles, well, we didn't really lose. We were the lost cause thing, and you'll see that in Facebook posts. These groups that still promote, the South was right or it's been mischaracterized. No, it hasn't been mischaracterized at all. It was all about slavery. You see it in every document of secession.
Yeah,
They
every single
mention
one.
slavery, the
They
cornerstone
lay it out.
speech.
They lay it out. They
Yeah,
write it all down for us. The lost cause thing, I'll just put a little note on that. That really built up with the children of those Confederate veterans,
daughters of the
much
Confederacy. Yeah,
and the sons, but they wanted to
yeah,
justify what their fathers had done, and
yeah.
that lost cause thing really hit its peak with that generation, and you see it coming out in 1910, 19, that time period. That's when the people started putting up those statues.
Right.
The biggest construction of Confederate statues was by the children of those veterans, not the veterans themselves. Hey, I want to talk about student loans. That
Okay.
kind of goes into this because across America they have been cutting various programs from all kinds of universities, top universities, because they said, well, these are DEI kind of things. Student loans, which we can talk about the predatory lending aspect of those and how people have paid off the principal time and time again and still owe tens of thousands of dollars because they took advantage of a payment deferment or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But now this administration just put a rule into effect that you cannot even get a student loan if your degree does not have a median income that would be greater than the median income of a high school graduate. So
That
social
rule I had
workers,
not heard.
yep, social workers, for example, would not qualify for student loans if you're trying to get a degree in social work. if you were trying to get certain mental health degrees as a counselor, not going on to become a psychiatrist, or a medical professional in that. There are certain mental health degrees. Tons of art degrees will no longer qualify for student loans.
My daughter has a theater
Money,
degree.
yeah, money is the only, well, history, so money is the only thing that matters to these people. And if they see no intrinsic value in social work or the arts at all, because you're not going to be able to make as much money as a plumber.
So you may be the next Van Cliburn, you may be the next Olivier, but if you want to study that in college, you're on your own.
Well, more than that, let's talk about the social workers that are out there trying to
Yeah.
help with problems like poverty and crime. That, Lord knows, that doesn't affect any of us. They're out there trying to help with those problems on the ground, day to day, and they will not qualify for federal student loans under this new administration guideline.
Okay. So yeah, and look, I understand that, and I knew that. My daughter, for example, got a free ride. She got a full ride scholarship, and that's great. But it was in theater, so she's still on the family payroll. But I knew that going in. I did theater in college, but it's you can't. Well, you've made the point. Society needs everything, and there's going to come a time, if this continues, where people are going to say, "Gosh, you never hear any good new music anymore," or "Is anybody writing good plays anymore?" Or where do I go because I can't? I need money to live.
I need counseling,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
you're out of luck. So another thing they are canceling. Again, all of this goes back to Doggy and Elon and the bill that gives tax cuts to all the billionaires, which now, by the way, polling shows that middle class people and below are all saying, yeah, I'm not seeing any tax savings. My cost of living has gone up immensely. They have canceled grants for teen pregnancy programs. So those are gone. Those are gone. And now the only thing that counselors are permitted to say if they're taking federal money is abstinence. So
Yep.
the grant, I mean, teen pregnancy programs are there to help out these teens that have found themselves pregnant and without a way forward. Those are gone. So, there are these people seriously sitting there thinking that girls are getting knocked up because, there's a grant. I really wasn't going to put out, but I could get $600 out of this deal.
I might have put that a little more gently, Mike, but I understand. Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, what's the logic there? You are canceling these programs. It's the old deal of, once there's conception, hey, we're not going to help you at that point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But these teenagers, they're going to get pregnant, and now they're eliminating the federal programs to help them through that ordeal. I seem to have dumbfounded you again here, Roger. You're
No.
like,
I don't get the logic. I mean, for example, we mentioned the pandemic. The Pandemic Preparedness Office, which was mandated by Congress years ago, Trump took it down to one person. It's a one-man army trying to stop whatever comes next. I mean, the logic of some of these cuts makes no sense to me. And you just gave us another one. Yeah.
Well, and the administration, by the way, this week, finally it came out in sworn court documents. So they're not making this up. This is sworn court documents that many of the grants that they had canceled, already approved grants that they canceled payment for, were, quote, based solely, end quote, on whether a state voted for Trump or Harris. So they have been finally admitted under oath in court, sworn documents, that they were stopping payments to states because they voted for Kamala. That is in areas that included clean energy, education, health, housing, and infrastructure. This is a quote again in those court filings. No cuts were based on any programmatic, statutory, cost reduction, or performative based factor, end quote. Also, he personally overrode FEMA and NOAA for disaster aid relief in, you guessed it, 4 states that voted for Kamala. That would be Rhode Island, New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. So
FEMA also just denied funding for Oregon, which is a very liberal state. It's a blue state. Yeah. So
I mean, this is not something nobody out there gets to sit there and say, well, they all do it, because they don't. There is no precedent whatsoever for this. You can go back to George W., I think it was, who approved every single disaster relief request that came to him, with one exception, and that was for New Mexico, because they were currently, that office, the New Mexico FEMA office, was under investigation for fraud. So he said, no, I'm not giving you any more money until we figure out if you've committed fraud. But no, this is unprecedented. The idea that you didn't vote for me, so therefore you're not getting the federal relief that you were entitled to based on the billions of dollars that your citizens paid in taxes.
Okay, let me interrupt our liberal rant because something just occurred to me. And here goes the equal time thing. I saw the head of the Democratic Socialists of America, the vice chair, was on some Fox program. They're interchangeable. And was going on about dismantling the Senate, closing all prisons, so on and so forth. The usual pie in the sky stuff. I realize that is nowhere near a sizable portion of voting Democrats. But if that becomes the talking point, it's going to cost. And embracing that, frankly, makes no sense, because
Roger,
the majority of the public is not going to go for it,
yeah,
whether they're red or
look,
blue.
Marjorie Taylor Greene talked about Jewish space lasers, among other many things, and nobody has branded that as a Republican Party platform. So your fixation on a couple of these candidates on the fringes of the Democratic Party are no different than the ones on the fringe of the Republican Party. The difference is that this is the administration. This is not some fringe lunatic out there. This is the administration. This is the Congress, which both houses are controlled by Republicans, and the Supreme Court, which has a supermajority of Trump appointees. So I'm not talking about some fringe candidate that hasn't even been elected yet. I'm talking about the people that are in charge and are responsible for governing us, that are stealing money from us, that are actively trying to kill us off. It's
And I understand that, Mike. I understand
it's
that,
not
but
remotely the same.
no, it's not the same. I grant you that. But what I am saying is, Republican, GOP spinmeisters are going to make it sound like the same. They're going to make it sound like, well, we're all, that's what these guys are. They're going to paint the entire group as its most extreme. Both sides do that. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a terrible representative of common sense Republican thinking, just as these people are terrible representatives of common sense Democratic thinking. But in the heat of a campaign, and we are in the middle of one, it's going to be painted that way. That's why suddenly, hey, communism is back.
Well, yeah, and that's why they have Fauci up on the Hill trying to rehash the pandemic from
Exactly.
7 years ago. They're Oscar Madison throwing spaghetti, I'm sorry, linguine at the wall is what's going on here.
No, it's garbage. Yeah, I know the
Yeah,
line. I
yeah,
did. I played the part. I played Oscar. Yeah.
Well, and I played Felix actually. They're trying anything at all that they can come up with. So yes, they're going to try that. None of that is going to take minds off the fact that people are paying more for housing, paying more for food, paying more for gas. They're not getting their promised programs. Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security are under relentless attack. People, I think this time, a lot of people are going to understand that and understand where the attack is coming from.
I wrote a piece last week. Just how are we? We're about a year and a half in to this Trump administration, and where do we stand? If you look at every marker that we use to measure the economy, we're worse. Every one. I don't care whether it's GDP growth, inflation, home sales. The market's even going up slower than it was going up under Biden. And this is not to say that Biden was paradise, but I'm forgetting the name of the governmental office, economics measurement office, that said Trump was handed the best economy in the last 30 years. The economy was in good shape.
Yep.
In January of 2025. And in every measure, we are down. So you're right. You have to hope that's going to register with voters.
Well, and I'll throw another log on the fire. Apparently, his recent appointee at the Fed, who
Warsh, yeah.
which I just have a hard time not thinking of, some hillbilly trying to talk about laundry.
You doing the Warsh?
Yep, when I say that. Apparently, they kept the rate level, but they also publicly said that several of the the reserve commissioners wanted to raise it. So chances are very good that it gets bumped up, which is going to make him go ballistic over the guy that he just appointed. Speaking of ballistic, we should talk about the war before we wrap up here.
Yeah.
Because it's, as we're taping this a day late this week on Thursday, it has ramped up. The Iranians are broadening the battlefield. They have attacked Egypt. The Saudis are now actively involved where the U.S. and the Israelis were. The Jordanians have a petition, some citizens in Jordan, to force the U.S. bases out of Jordan. The U.S. is now attacking militia groups in Iraq because they said the Iraqis were not doing enough. The Iraqis, ostensibly one of our allies over there, and we're attacking within the country, and the Iraqis are not happy about that. Iran is has apparently considered attacking Ukraine, which God only knows what that's going to bring up. And it seems like I'm leaving one out, but that's,
Well, we could toss into the mix the fact that we are stockpiles of sophisticated weaponry, the Patriot missiles and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Something the acronym is THAAD. They're getting critically low. We have used like 60% of the inventory we had at the beginning of this whole thing, so we're down to 40%. And heaven help them if China decides it's time to take over Taiwan. They can't expect help from us. If North Korea wants to rattle sabers with South Korea, they can't depend on us. We're running out. Add to that the fact that they're jiggering the numbers on casualties.
Yep.
We found this week.
Yep.
And that young lady from Carrollton, I think.
Yep. Isabella Gonzalez, I think.
Yeah, because that attack happened during one of Trump's ceasefires. They initially said, "Oh, well, that doesn't count as a war casualty." Please, people.
Yep.
And I found myself wondering, would that affect the benefits her family get from the military when you lose a family member?
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah. So it's not good. Iran is a terrible country, but this was so ill conceived and so ill carried out.
Well, there were.
Go ahead.
There's a quote today. Again, making fun of Warsh's name. The admiral that's in charge of Central Command is Bradley Cooper. So yeah, I'm sure that's
Not
never
the
come up.
actor.
Not the actor. Apparently, there's a different guy.
Yeah.
And his office directly said we have no comment, but two sources within his office spoke on condition of anonymity and said that his belief is that unless they're going to resume major combat, they need to stop all this bombing shit because it has, and this is a quote from those sources, it has reached its limit of effectiveness, meaning we're just wasting the bombs at this point, and the cost of the bombs, because unless they're going to really ramp up, you're not doing anything effective.
Well, this guy's obviously suffering from low T. I mean,
Well, there you go. There's your
obviously.
problem.
That's the problem. No, we found this out, frankly, in World War II. We found it out in, other than dropping a nuke, you don't win a war with simple bombing. And frankly, even dropping the nuke at the end of World War II, Japan had been weakened long before that. Germany didn't surrender, and we bombed the living hell out of them until we actually sent troops in there. Bombing did not stop the North Vietnamese, so you can't do it alone with bombing. And he makes a point that's been made many times before, literally in wartime. So,
Well, and you go back to the why we're doing this, which has changed dramatically at the start of this. When he started this war, for no apparent reason, he talked about eroding the Iranian missile supply. That has not been mentioned in months. He talked about ending their proxy militias and proxy organizations. And what he managed to do in the last week is bring more of them into the fight. The ones that had been sitting out in Yemen and in Iraq, he has now brought into the fight. So we're getting nowhere. This was all foreseeable, as we've talked about repeatedly.
and our oil reserves are at their lowest level since we started saving oil for an oil reserve, and prices are skyrocketing, et cetera, et cetera. Mike, we're at the end. We need a weird historical fact.
Oh, I got one. We're going to talk about
Okay.
women's cosmetics, is what we're going to talk
Okay.
about. And we're going to go back. This is probably more germane to Europe than it is to the United States. But there was certainly some slop over to the United States. There were, back in the Victorian era and back even before that, there were always beauty columnists and writers telling women how to make themselves more beautiful in the style. And one of them in Britain, and I'm not making this up, was a book called The Ugly Girl Papers. So basically, they're just flat saying, "Yeah, you're ugly. We're going to fix that. We're gonna help you." So the Victorians were obsessed with white skin, and I'm not talking just pale. I'm talking about deathly pale. That was their idea of beauty, like fish belly white.
We're talking the Winter Brothers, yeah.
That's what they were going for. So for starters, they had a lead-based white cream that they would smear all over themselves. Lead. So there's going to be a theme here. And then you couldn't smile because then you would crack your face. So that, of course,
Well,
made
it's
you,
like
yeah,
like
much
Botox,
more,
yeah.
yeah, much more attractive. But lead is not the end of it. And I'm going to go through a list here. I'll try to do this fairly fast. You should wake up in the morning. You should clean your face with ammonia. That's the first thing you should do. And then if you really want to make your skin whiter, you might try rubbing opium on it overnight. So,
by the way, nothing attracts a guy like smelling like an old diaper. Yeah.
yeah,
Ammonia.
exactly. Mercury as a nightly eye treatment to drop into your eyes. Another option is belladonna or dropping citrus juice into your eyes because the watery look in your eye made it attractive. Mercury-based red tint for your lips. So, in other words, these women are killing themselves, but I got one more, Roger. I got one more. Yeah. Dr. Rose's arsenic complexion wafers. That was an actual product in Victorian England. They also would go and bathe in arsenic springs, and claiming that it would give them almost a transparent whiteness to their skin. That, by the way, continued for decades, that practice of using a little bit of arsenic, which you can build up a tolerance and apparently become addicted to. So there's some weird history for you.
Okay. And it makes my Botox crack seem, fairly mild by comparison. Yeah.
Doesn't it, though?
Michael, thank you, sir. As always, I appreciate it, and we appreciate you. This and our short reels that come out of this little extravaganza are everywhere. And we'd love for you to hit like and subscribe and all that stuff. And we'd like to see you back here.
Spread the word.
Yeah, indeed. And thank you for joining us for this edition of Another Fine Mess.